Okay, I think that's recording. All right. Okay, so thanks again for letting me come in. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great to be able to be in your classroom because I haven't been in there all year except for when somebody's doing something they're not supposed to do. Okay, so remind me of what your lesson objective was for today.
All right, well, we start every day with a daily spark, and the point of that is it rotates daily, so it's either a journal entry, and that gets them writing and thinking, but also discussing with one another, just kind of building open communication, which helps in the long run. As you saw, they do a nice job.
They did a really good job. Yeah.
So we used that just to, build active vocabulary among the kids.
Okay.
But then the bulk of the lesson that you saw today was a class discussion over chapters of the novel that we're reading. They have to annotate the text, so the objective is to be able to take annotations that drive comprehension, but also kind of the goal is deeper level thinking of the text.
Right.
Not just surface level questions and answers. So we did discuss before starting the novel kind of 3 tiers of questioning. Surface level questions, which we did hear a few of those today, but then looking for questions that will kind of grow that depth of knowledge. That's what I'm like trying to think of the right word.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you think they could identify that? Like that that's the goal of what they're doing, like why they're reading the book? Or why they're doing the activity? And it doesn't just have to be that class, you can, because you're doing that with all your classes.
Yeah, I think of the 3 classes, that class would probably recall that from the beginning of the novel the best.
Right.
I think they're probably the only ones that would say yes, that's why they're doing
They
that.
could nail down what the purpose of reading the book is. You think they could? Like it's not just a book that it's a good read. Like we're reading it because we're trying to get this out of it, or we're trying to learn.
Well, we did
this
discuss
through
it at the beginning,
Right.
so I would hope so. Although I don't have it posted anywhere, so
That's okay. That's not what I'm getting at. That's
okay.
That's not what I'm. That's not a thing.
Okay.
Do you think it would be helpful though to maybe like take 2 minutes at the beginning and refresh it with them?
Yeah,
or
probably.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that would definitely be helpful.
Okay. So how do you think the lesson went overall?
I thought it went pretty well. That is about the level of conversation that they usually provide, which I'm pretty happy with actually out of that group. If I compare it, so I have 3 classes that are all doing the same book, and you'd be surprised, the middle school class actually tends to draw tougher discussion questions
I'm getting that too from them lately, so yeah, that makes sense.
That I wouldn't expect from them. But I also think maybe that's because they don't have as much background knowledge built in, so they have to ask those tougher questions because it doesn't just inherently come to them.
Right.
Where was I going with this? What was your question?
Just how it went.
Oh,
That's okay.
how did it go?
That's okay.
So what they've been doing in there is pretty good. We don't do that every day, but it's going pretty well. I think from some of them, I would like to see more effort in what they're bringing to the table.
So who specifically? Just wondering. I can probably guess, but.
Okay. I think Corey would have a lot more to say, but he just doesn't. He does engage, but he doesn't engage at any deeper level. Like he doesn't take any risks or put himself out there.
Okay.
Caitlin tends to give me like one good piece, but then won't comment on other students. So when another student gives a good piece, she won't kind of play off of them a whole lot.
Okay.
But she has a lot to add. I'm really happy with, like we talked about before, Evan's been a really good addition to our class. So he can bring some some knowledge and some
Oh,
actual
absolutely.
like
Mhm.
content,
Yeah.
which is good. And he's really historically, you know.
I know. I love seeing that. I love
He's
that.
got
Yeah.
he's got a lot of history knowledge that I don't have, so it helps out if I'm in a stumper. I just say,
Mhm.
"Hey, Evan,"
Yeah.
you know.
So did anything like stick out there like that went really well, or this could have gone better just within that time that you were in there?
Nothing's really sticking out.
That's okay.
Okay, there probably was something and I just can't think of what it is. I know we did talk about, somebody brought back up partisan during the discussion, which we hadn't talked about in a while, the partisan group, and then kind of, so just the fact that they were bringing up things that we had discussed 4 weeks ago.
Right.
And,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and implementing that into the conversation without me prompting that.
Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff.
Absolutely.
So-
Yeah. No. For those guys to recall something from that long ago and to make those connections, it's good. I personally like to see. I liked the few connections made to history was good, mostly by Evan, but it was good.
You know, but if one person brings it up, that's okay, because then everyone else is like, oh yeah, hey.
Yeah.
I got that.
But I personally enjoyed it. It was great to see them discuss. I thought they did a really good job,
Good.
which was nice. So that was great.
Good.
So it was good. Did anything surprise you in the lesson? Other than like the recall, was that kind of what surprised
That
you
was what
too?
surprised me,
Yeah.
I think.
Mhm. Okay.
To hear them bring up things, especially like every once in a while, we do get these little bits of history fact that we haven't even talked about next door,
Right.
and I don't know where they come from.
Yeah.
They're probably coming from your class, and so
Hopefully.
it's like, wow,
That's
you guys
good.
are doing a nice job.
Yeah, there you go. All right, good. Keep patting me on
That's all right.
the back. Okay, so I just kind of had a couple questions about
Okay.
some things I saw. So, before we kind of get into some of the other stuff, when Evan was, it wasn't the spark. It was like when you were like identifying page numbers
Yeah.
or whatever and giving something. You said like 10 seconds to him.
Okay.
Like, what was that? I'm just wondering what that was. I've never. Like he's like started talking and maybe he was like, was it to refocus him?
Sort of. So I don't actually remember saying that, but I do say that sometimes,
Uh-huh.
so it doesn't surprise
Okay,
me.
yeah.
So before they can contribute, they need to make 2 contributions to our discussion.
Okay.
It was how that was lined up ahead of time.
Okay.
What you're seeing there with the page numbers and that we're using the Right Tools annotation guide.
Yep.
And so before they contribute to our discussion, they have to have the page number lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And be ready to go, so that we're not
Okay.
sitting waiting on them.
Right.
And so if he had raised his hand, telling me that he's ready to go, and I
Mhm.
called on him, and then he had to flip back through and process his thoughts and
Mhm.
look up his page,
Okay.
I'm assuming it was just to keep the conversation moving, so I told him he had 10 seconds, or I
Right.
was going to move
Okay.
on, and then come back.
Okay.
You know, we could come back to
Yeah.
him, but,
That's what I thought it meant, and I really liked it. Especially with that group, sometimes it's nice to kind of,
yeah.
come on, get it,
And
spit it
Evan,
out.
I mean, if he raises his hand, he's got something good to say, it's just, you know, he just needs to have it ready to roll.
Yeah, he needs
So-
to be a little bit more concise.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's what I thought it was, but I just wanted to make sure, because I thought that was good. I'm probably gonna steal that.
Sure.
And they're used to it, so I don't have to teach it.
There you go.
So, what are your classroom routines, and then how do you think you can help students like better learn them? Because I did notice, it seems like, are they supposed to come in and get their stuff out?
Yeah.
And then none of them had it out.
I know, but
So-
a lot of times, most of the time they do have
So
it out.
normally, so that was kind of something that maybe didn't go so well.
Yes,
as
it didn't
compared
go
to
well
normal.
today, and I should have probably caught that long before I asked them to go get their folders.
Yeah.
I think I am falling into this horrible rut where I
Uh-huh.
am not paying attention to little things like the routine. And we still follow, you know, a pretty strict, we do the same thing every day, kind of in the same order.
Right.
But things like that, like they're supposed to come into the classroom, they're supposed to pick up their folder and get a half sheet of paper, and then
Okay.
they use the half sheet of paper to do the Daily Spark that's on
Mhm.
the board, the little discussion starter. And then after that, we have language arts time. Mondays we do vocab, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we use the textbook of some sort.
Mhm.
And then Fridays, we have, we take a vocab quiz and do a writing probe, and then we do some other application activity outside of the textbook that applies to what they've been
Right.
talking about.
Mhm.
But anyway, things like getting their folder should have already been happening.
Right, yeah.
And so those are places where, like, I should have noticed that when I walked in and looked around, and 2 people out of 8 had their
Yeah.
folder,
Mhm.
and should have probably addressed that earlier. So just a reteaching moment,
Okay.
probably.
So who had their stuff out?
I don't remember, it was 2.
I don't
asked
remember
Mr.
either.
Andrick to give tickets.
I don't remember. Oh, did you? Okay.
yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, well, I said, can you, because everybody stood up when I said, take out your worksheets.
Right.
Like, it seemed like
Mhm.
everybody stood up. So 2 people had their
Mhm.
folders. It was, and I said, Mr. A, can you get tickets for the 2
Mhm.
people that were
Yeah.
ready to go?
Okay.
Who was it? I don't know,
I
does
don't
it matter?
I don't remember either. So what I'm thinking is, instead, if you try to make, and I struggle with this too, and that class struggles sometimes even, because they know they're supposed to come into my class and do almost the same thing.
Mhm.
What I've started doing, which has worked pretty well, is before I even give an assignment, or before I even talk or require them to go and think about getting anything, I go around and loudly hand out tickets to everyone who's got their stuff out. So maybe that would work
Yep.
with them, but maybe it wouldn't either, so. You
It
never know.
probably would. I guess I didn't notice prior to today that, I don't know why everyone came in and
It
did
struggled
not get
today,
their
yeah.
materials,
It's-
but.
It's just the day probably. And then I just wanna, the email that you sent me talked about you kind of getting into a rhythm, and then you weren't sure if that was a good thing. So I
Yeah.
just, what do you mean?
That's what I mean, so that's what I was trying to
So
say
just kind of
before.
the
I
routine
feel
stuff.
like I'm getting into so much of a rhythm that I'm, like, losing, okay, so, like, for instance, before, I would sit in the room and watch them come in, and if someone sat down without getting their folder, I'd say, Corey, now you need to go get your folder before you get
Mhm.
started on your Spark, things like that.
Mhm.
I've gotten into, our class has gotten into such a good rhythm that, you know, 9 days out of 10, they all come in and get their stuff and do their Spark, and so I feel like I can
Mhm.
stay in the hall a few minutes longer
Mhm.
and I don't have to walk into the room,
Right,
but then I don't see it. So if someone doesn't get their materials, I'm not there to address that.
right.
So it's not a bad thing. Most of the time they're doing what they need to do,
Mhm.
but it also makes me more relaxed in.
Right. So, because that's not really, so really, the rhythm you're working, it's not instructional at all. It's really just more of like management stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right, I mean, it leads to instruction, but really it's more like routine stuff,
Right.
like stuff that
It
they
is.
kind of maybe had down, and maybe everybody's kind of taking their eye off the ball with it, and it's kind of slacking a little bit. But I'm wondering, what could you have Mr. Andrew do,
Mm.
right, to kind of, because I think it's better for you to be in the hall and greeting students and stuff like that than to be in the classroom making sure everybody has their pencil and everything. So what do you think you can do for him to kind of
Yeah.
delegate like some of those things to make sure he makes sure the kids do it?
Yeah. Maybe I've gotten a little more so complacent in that too, because we did talk about it at the beginning of the year, but
Uh-huh.
I guess, yeah, I haven't addressed it with him in a while.
So really, I'm thinking about this as not so much of reteaching your students,
Right.
but more of reteaching him.
Sure. That'd be easier.
Yeah,
And they only have to
it's just
reteach
one.
once.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's on the copy machine.
That's, see, don't even go there. This is how this started.
Yeah.
So now I feel like I'm at like a dead spot. Like, is reteaching Mr. Hendrick even gonna help?
Right.
Because,
Mhm.
and then sometimes, and you know, he's such a nice guy, but
Uh-huh.
he is like if you give him a job, he overdoes the job
Oh, okay.
sometimes.
Mhm.
And so, like, if I tell him to just make sure everyone has a pencil, he won't like
Do you think
he
you can
won't-
almost?
kindly address it with like one-on-one, you know, it would just
Right.
be like, you didn't get your pencil!
Oh, okay.
Or,
Yeah.
so anyway, it's not a bad thing, and he does need to have more responsibility. His responsibility right now in the class is like 0, because
Mhm.
I'm probably micromanaging
Yeah.
everything.
No,
and
and
I
I
just
get
rather
it.
it be done my way.
I get it.
So,
I-
which I know is not the way it should be done.
That's okay, because I'm the same way. I micromanage everything too. So I'm wondering maybe if you could create, or we could create, or something.
Yes.
Like
for Mr. Andrick.
Well, or just like because this is mostly first period, right? I mean, you do the routines with all the periods, but that's the one you're standing out in the hallway for the most amount of time,
Yeah.
probably.
Oh yeah, I'm not on the
But
hall
it'd be good for him
hardly
to
at all.
do it for the other ones too. Maybe, I guess coming in after lunch probably too. You're probably in the hall more.
Yeah.
Maybe almost just like a step 1, do this, then do this, then do
Yeah.
this. And then that could incorporate the ticket stuff too. So instead, maybe that would get him so he's not like jumping down and kids throw something, getting the pencil. It's more so like at 8:05 or whatever, you know what I mean? When it seems like all the kids are in the classroom but you're not in there yet, go around and loudly, positively ticket
Yeah.
every student who has it. And then I would think pretty much every kid would go up and get their stuff. And maybe that could just be his thing. At 8:05 I do this, just
Right.
like it, you know,
Sure.
whatever I do, I walk the kids to wherever. Maybe that
Yeah.
could be,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. Okay. That's good. So I'm just gonna share with you how I scored it, and this is
Okay.
kind of a new sheet. So what I do is, there's a series of questions that I answer based on my observation for you, it's just like 4 or 5,
Mhm.
and then it tells me where in this you fall,
Okay.
okay? And then
Yeah.
it generates some questions that I can go off of. You scored in the delegate, which means you have a high will for teaching, congratulations, you have a high will, and you also have a high skill, right?
Okay.
According to the program. So that's kind of how it works, so I just wanted you to understand, that's where some of this comes from.
Okay.
So I don't need to come in and direct you and tell you what you need to do and help you with that kind of stuff, because you recognize maybe things that are going well in your classroom and you recognize things that you want to improve in your classroom.
Okay.
So I don't need to come in and tell you to do it, right?
Okay.
So this is more, I want to find out what I can do or what the administration can do to help you achieve the goals you want to achieve for yourself and for your students.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. Okay, so does that
Okay.
kind of make sense?
Sure.
Where this comes from? Okay. And you can look at that.
It's okay.
So what type of instructional methods do you find most effective for the students here?
Well, okay, so some things that you saw today that are not ideal LA classroom protocol.
Mhm.
I read almost absolutely everything out loud.
Okay.
Now, okay, I said I. Almost everything gets read out loud.
Right, yeah.
Whether that's by me or someone else, you know, whether we do read around or popcorn read, or I just call on people, or we take volunteers or whatever,
Mhm.
or they partner read sometimes.
Mhm.
But almost everything gets read out loud. That would probably never happen in regular LA class.
Right.
We would have things you would read independently.
Mhm.
And that's an important skill to be able to learn.
Mhm.
Like, can I read it to myself without the auditory and still be able to, you know, comprehend what I'm reading and kick back out whatever
Yeah.
the teacher's asking? But I don't do that here because over half of my kids wouldn't read it.
Right.
If I stuck it
Yeah.
in front of them and
Yeah.
told them to read it
No,
quietly.
I get it.
So, so that's probably one of the biggest
Okay.
changes
Mhm.
that.
From like
I-
what traditional
Yeah.
language arts would look like to here. Okay.
Okay, so what else do we do a lot of? We practice the same skills in many different ways. So, like we do vocab every week, which is not even like our school district doesn't even do vocab anymore.
Right.
Okay, but we do vocab because I have a lot of kids
Mhm.
who just have low skill, you know,
Absolutely.
in that area and need to build that up.
Mhm.
And so instead of, you know, being pulled out, we don't do, I mean, I know Madonna pulls kids out
Yeah.
and does stuff with them independently, but I pretty much just teach the entire body that we have here as a co-taught LA class.
Right.
You know, just how it would be if they were in a pull-out class,
Right.
and then everybody gets it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we do weekly vocab. We do, we make word wall blocks. We discuss almost everything that we write down. They'll write it down first on their own, and then we discuss it together as a class, so that kids who aren't getting it on their own are gonna hear it from somebody else at least.
Right.
So, you know,
Okay.
are those the things you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just wondering what you, because, you know, I find things that work well here that would be a big no-no, you know, in, you know, Kennedy or Jefferson, something like, what are you doing that for, or something like that, so I'm just interested to know what you find that
Got
works
it.
best here.
Got it.
And then, what are ways that you can identify some maybe holes in student learning, like you
Yeah.
said, like, kind of that internal, right, ability to comprehend and kind of take in information, and then how can you alleviate that through something else?
Mhm.
Right? Because I would agree that for class novels and stuff, they need to be read out loud here. They just need to be,
Yeah.
to know that the students are gonna get the information they need to be. But then how can you, in some other, you know, activity or something, kind of fill that hole somehow? And not perfectly, but somewhat. So what do you think are like activities or?
Okay, so you mean fill the hole like of independent?
Yeah, I
being able
mean,
to
they do
independent-
free reading, right?
They do.
So do they have
Thanks.
to do anything?
There you go.
You're welcome. But do they have to do anything with that free reading time?
Okay,
Like,
so we don't, only once a week do they do anything with their free read
Uh-huh.
time. So, I mean, I don't have them write daily on their free read.
Mhm.
We free read for 10 minutes a day, then they log their pages, which the
Mhm.
truth is, I do that just to hold them accountable, but I don't grade
Right.
that at all.
Mhm.
And then every Friday we do what we call pair share. They're
Mhm.
given a prompt on the board, and they read the prompt, and it'll have something to do with, you know, like it might be talking about characterization and ask them to describe their character, pick one character from the book, describe them in 10 words and tell me why those 10 adjectives are sufficient for describing
Yeah.
the character, or something like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so they have some prompt, then they
Mhm.
write, then they get together with a partner and they have to share that.
Okay.
It's not always, you know, sometimes it's a lot, I mean, I try and tie it to, except for with this novel unit, it's been a little different, but I normally try and tie that to whatever skill we're working on that week, so.
Mhm. Okay. So when they were, and I'm gonna be super awkward because this thing's, I just wanna make sure it's read, so that we don't get to do this again tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't you
I'd
love to
kill
do
you.
that?
No.
Okay, it tells me it's recording. Okay.
Okay.
I haven't used that thing in years. Okay. So I
There's
wanna
no
make
light
sure.
or anything.
Well, it's got a red light, but it blinks, and so I thought maybe blinking to me means bad. So, okay. So I was wondering, and I didn't look at the sheet, when you were reading and they had like text to world
Mhm.
and you had like the different whatever.
Yep.
Do you think that's something they could incorporate in their free reading time? Like right, so they do the pair share, right? But is there any like guidance for what they should be looking for, like to get ready for the pair share on Fridays?
No, but we could do that.
You don't have to. I'm just.
No, but yeah,
Is there,
that's.
like some sort of like rubric, like here's some things I should try to identify in the text that I can share
Sure.
with during the pair share or something, and then maybe there can be some sort of connection that way.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we
Okay.
don't do that now, but that's a good idea.
Okay, well, good. Okay, so how do you think, so those are the things that you find that work best here, but then how do you think in your classroom and in the 3 classrooms that our kids rotate through, how can we as a team change our instructional practices to make learning better? And this is where I'm putting you on the spot because you're in this category.
I don't know that I'm in that category,
You're in
buddy,
that,
but.
oh, trust me, you're in that category. Because we're at the end of the year,
Yeah,
most likely the 3 of us are going to be back.
right.
How can we make this better? Because I'm going to be honest, apart from me having to do this for class, I really enjoy being in your classroom. And I wish we would do more of that when it's not just having to come in for a crisis. You know what I mean? For the 3 of us to be able to see, because I mean, you're reading a book right now and I've got kids that are learning about the Cold War. Why aren't we,
Right.
you know what I mean? So how do you think as a school, because we're so small, I mean, it's really,
Right.
our school is just these 3 classrooms,
know.
really. So how do you think what do you think we can change or implement? Or do you have any ideas, like it'd be cool if we could do this or that?
Well, I mean, I'm all for like cross-content units, which is a ton of prep work, but
Right,
I'm
yeah.
all for that. I think that's really cool, and the schools that are doing it are amazing. I mean, just some things that I would like are not necessarily consistency in grading. That's not what I mean by that, but and I think every teacher can have their own classroom expectations or whatever. But like for instance, both of you guys give, and maybe not every single week, or maybe it is, I don't know exactly what your policy is, but you give like a catch-up day on Friday, which I'm seeing more value in that now, but I didn't start it at the beginning of the year and I didn't want to screw up my routine. So I haven't implemented it the back half of the year, I just kept things the same. Because the kids have done really, I'm at the point this year, it finally, just in the last month or 2, where they do know the routine really well and I don't have to harp on them, and
Yeah.
so I didn't change anything. But I am seeing value in that. So having consistency in things, not that that's grading, but I just hear it a lot, you know, like, well, I'm behind in your class, but I get Fridays in my other two classes to catch up on their work, and I don't get that in your class. And that does make sense. And there are things in this school that, you know, everybody, when they found out I was doing a novel unit, thought I was nutso in this school, because we do have kids who miss so many days, and I can't send books back to cottage with them. And so that has been a struggle. I thought, well, I have to do a novel. How can I not do a novel? You know, we're in a stinking LA class. I have to do one novel a year. And it's ambitious, but it's been working pretty well, but it's not probably ideal.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, there are some kids who are going to tank on the whole unit as a whole because they just miss so much class. So being able to have like that Friday work day would probably be a benefit. So that's one thing I probably need to work on.
But it's not fun to do it, is it?
No, it's not. I don't want to. Like in my heart, it's killing me. I'm like, you skip my class on Tuesday, but you can come on Friday and make that up. You know.
I hear you.
Anyway, but that might be a necessity.
But that's something as a system we can address.
Right.
And figure out how to make that happen, and it doesn't necessarily have to be all day. It could turn into Friday afternoons or makeup times or something like that. And I think working better together, and it seems like the team will be together next year, which it wasn't before. Maybe we can make some of those adjustments.
Right. So we've been discussing, you know, in PBIS time or whatever, doing like, I don't even know what you call it.
Call what? The routines or something?
No, where you get the free time to make things up, or you can be in a club.
Oh, yeah. Oh, preferred activity. A preferred activity, I think, is what we're calling it.
Something like that.
Let's call it a preferred activity.
Okay, which actually sounds really great. I think that would be really useful in this environment, to give kids an opportunity to do something, you know, extracurricular that's not just school.
Yeah, more like the normal school where you have band or art or something.
Right, yes. You can be in art class if you want. You can take, you know, be in a club if that's what you'd like to do. And make it more regular. I don't think that's even your question.
Well, no, I'm trying to pick your brain.
Instructional practices. Okay, so I know that, I was getting on grading, and that's why. I also don't like that in some of the classes you only get graded on what you turn in and not what was assigned.
That's a problem.
And so that, you know, I haven't had a lot of kids argue with me about that, but I've had a couple kids argue with me about that. And if 2 kids argue with me about that, that's enough that we should discuss it.
I agree.
So,
well, then I'm going to jump back, but I want to jump to this since you brought it up.
Okay.
What do you think you need from administration and us to make some of those things happen? More consistency.
What do I need from administration? I mean, I don't feel like I've gotten... Okay, what do I want to say? This is my first year teaching.
Yeah.
Okay?
You're doing a great job. Look, you're already up there.
Thanks! That's why I'm questioning your choice of box there, buddy. But
don't say that when the camera's on.
I know. I would like to know what you inputted that got me in there.
I can show you.
And later. Anyway, okay. I don't feel like our direct administration, like in our office here, has left me hanging in any way.
Right.
I feel like they're doing what they need to do to make it as easy on me as possible. But I do feel like administration as a whole in our district has definitely left me hanging. I don't get, what do I want to say? Like, I get, I've got access at the beginning of the school year to a drive, and I didn't know what was on it, and there's 10 million documents on it, and I can access that for whatever information I want, but I'm not told in what order. There is an order. Like, the language arts curriculum has been made for our district, and so there is an order that you should use it, and there is supposedly materials that go along with it, and I don't have any of it. I have a textbook.
So that would be through Erin? Is that her name?
Oh, yes.
Right. Is that who that all comes through?
Yeah.
But you're not finding her very...
No, and so I have emailed her like a million times and I get nothing back. Then I'm required to go to, staff learning days with my language arts team,
Mhm.
that team,
Mhm.
at all the other buildings, and they grade these tests that they've given that I don't have.
Mhm.
And then when I email and say, or she sends an email, a bulk email to everybody, which I'm on, and
Mhm.
says, how many of these tests do you want? And I reply, and then I never get them.
Right.
Do I give them? Do I not? I know where to access them. I could go online and print off,
Mhm.
these 30-page tests for each of my 50 students, or I could just choose not to, because why didn't I get my hard copies?
Right.
So I know that, sounds really bad,
No,
but
I get it.
yeah, so, and it's not that I need more curriculum. I feel like I'm competent enough to take the book that's in my classroom
Mhm.
and make something of it.
Right.
But there are a lot of people that would not be competent enough to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So if it was somebody else, in that classroom next door, what
Yeah.
would they be doing?
Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
So, if the resource you have right now is not working very well, as a person, right? I don't want
Right.
Erin, right? It's
Yeah,
not working
and
very
that's-
well. So what?
And
can
I don't
you-
even know if it's her. I
Right,
don't know who I'm
absolutely.
supposed to go to.
So what do you think the administrator here, the new administrator next year,
Right.
if you could say, give me this one thing to help me get this stuff, would it be, give me one day a semester to go and shadow a language arts teacher at
Yeah,
Trinity or
only more
something?
than one day.
Or okay, right, so, but do you think, because to me, it sounds like, yeah, there's a lot of little problems with the system being out here. Maybe it would be better to just get you a teacher contact
Yeah, no,
that you could form, maybe you already have those relationships
Not a
with
lot.
those people. But so, really, you need somebody to go and find a model teacher that's doing really good things,
who's willing to share.
who's willing to share and let you observe so often, and then that's also the person that you can contact and say, I'm trying to do this, but these are the only materials I have. Can you help me, or can you send me something, or can you recommend something,
Right.
right? And would that be something that would be
Yes,
helpful?
very useful. I student taught in the district,
Right.
so I have a couple of teachers that I'm at least that close with, but what I'm finding is you email a teacher and they don't want to give you their stuff, which I understand,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, but hopefully if you form some sort of relationship with that person by shadowing them or spending some time with them, hopefully that would
right.
come about, hopefully. But I'm thinking about, that wouldn't just benefit you, it could probably filter through you, but that could benefit all the people teaching at Polk
Right.
and, all the other offsites.
Right.
It could benefit them as far as that goes,
Right.
So, you're the only content expert in offsites, technically.
And that's scary.
Yeah, it is. It is scary.
I feel like I'm doing fine, but I don't feel like I'm some content whiz,
Oh,
that
oh.
should not be how that goes down.
But,
So,
if you can make that work for you, it's not only gonna benefit you, it's gonna benefit
Right.
everybody
Right.
teaching language arts in the offsites. So I think that should be something that could happen maybe.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna jump back a little bit real quick.
okay,
I'm not gonna take you too much longer.
you're okay.
So we talked about things that you do that you find effective here, things that you think maybe we could improve upon. And then personally, as a teacher, what are some things you want to work on to improve your practice? And not necessarily just for here. So if it's like, there's this training I really want to go to, or there's this book I'd really like to read, or, is there anything out there that you really want to improve your practice?
Well, we already talked about part of it because job shadowing
Yeah.
multiple people was
Uh-huh.
on my list of things to do this year, and that just never happens here. That is
It's
so
tough.
hard. We can't even get a stinking sub. Who's gonna cover my class?
Yeah.
So that was a big part of that. I don't know off the top of my head of any books or conferences that I would want to go to. I'm taking classes for a SPED endorsement, not because, I don't think I want to do full-time SPED,
Uh-huh.
but just, it doesn't matter where you work, you have kids in your class who
Oh, yeah.
need that, and I just feel like even knowing ins and outs of IEPs, my son is on an IEP,
Mhm.
and as a parent sitting in, I know things like at home that he needs to work on, but to be able to have the gen ed teacher show up and know some of those strategies and say, these are the things that in my room need to be on his IEP, because
Right.
you don't always have a special ed teacher co-teaching every classroom that sped kids are in.
Right.
You know, so I'm just trying to learn that for my own benefit. Like, I feel like I have to know that stuff, or I'm not going to feel like I'm doing the best job I
It
can.
helps a lot. It does.
So-
yeah, I'm sure it helps. Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know. That's about it. But for
Okay.
the most part, I mean, seriously, like watching other teachers, I feel like I just need to do that, and I just never have time to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you need to be given time to do that.
Yeah.
I think that is something that can be done.
With a really great, like, and I know I could probably make this myself, but because I don't know what I should be going there looking for, like a really great little binder that says, okay, when you go, these are the 30 things you should observe. Like, look
Oh, okay.
for these
Mhm.
techniques, and look for the way they address this and this
Mhm.
and this, and you know, you'll see bad examples and you'll
Yeah.
see good examples,
Mhm.
but then I don't know, like I just, not that, I mean, I could go in and observe and see good things, but it would be really nice to have somebody who has already looked at a class, you know, looked
Mhm.
at that and said, here are the things you should pick out in the classroom.
Right. Okay.
So-
So really just, you want to be able to set up to go and observe other classrooms, but you also want to go in with like a toolkit of things
Yes.
to look for
Right, so that I'm not wasting my time
and
while
to
I'm
take
there.
away from it,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
right.
I'm sure that's out there. So,
Because I only get one day. It's not like they're going to give me 3 weeks.
right,
You know.
that's not gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, do you have any questions or any questions about like how stuff went, or if I noticed something, or anything like
Sure,
that?
give it to me.
No, this is all my stuff. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like,
how'd it go?
You know, I thought it went great. I was really impressed with it. I mean, you know, I know those kids, so it's a little different.
I know.
You know what I mean? It's not like it's kids I've never seen before, you know, and I'm more familiar with your content than I am with like math. But it was kind of nice, you know, to see them discuss in another classroom, because they do a lot of discussion in my classroom. It was also just nice to see discussion happening in more than just my room, which is nice that they're having to practice those skills. And I think, you know, I'm noticing a large improvement in the discussion skills of that middle school group, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
me too.
part of that is because it's not just happening in one of our classrooms. It's happening in multiple rooms, and they're getting it multiple times a day,
Mhm.
you know, or multiple times a week or whatever. I was thoroughly impressed.
Do they write very much in your class?
Um,
Because they should be writing a ton in my class, and I cannot get them to produce anything of any value.
No, not generally.